UNC wins the ACC regular season title. Notre Dame wins ACC women's tournament. We also have the men's tournament preview to go over. We'll talk about all of these things on today's episode of Locked On ACC.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's edition of Locked On ACC. I'm your host, Candace Cooper, joined by Kenton Gibbs of Locked On Wolfpack. Each and every day, you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you download, subscribe to the pod from anywhere. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. North Carolina beat Duke in its final regular season game, beating them 84-79. A good victory for the Heels as they clinched the regular season title outright. And Kenton, we know we talked about it on Saturday. Nobody likes to share, and North Carolina made sure that they were not sharing with the Blue Devils. And I feel like it was just a good win for the Heels.
Yeah, it was a very similar game to the first time around, in that we saw very similar themes occur. And, I got a text from a very good friend during the game saying, Duke is never going to listen to you about slowing it down and making it a half-court game, and they won't. They won't for whatever reason. I don't know why they think they're the masters of go, but it was very clear that was what they needed to do. They just failed to do so. And also they did a good job in negating the stars over Cormac Ryan. I mean, brother, what a time, and a lot of people got a problem with how intensely he was celebrating afterwards. If you drop 31 in the Battle of the Blue, you drop a 30-piece, extra sauce on them nuggets in the Battle of the Blues, celebrate as much as you want to. You know what I mean? As long as everybody stay alive afterwards, you good.
31 points is the most since Hubert Davis, who dropped a 35-piece during the Blue Devils versus Tar Heels matchup. And I feel like Cormac, who is almost 30 years old, the jokes of Harrison Ingram saying he dropped as many as how old he is, we love to see it. But I think we talk about, being fueled by negativity, and something that the Cameron Crazies love to do. They have their cheat sheet. They love to talk junk, love to talk about your mama and this, that, and the third. Cormac really was fueled by that. And you could tell every time he would just get hotter and hotter, he would just really look at that crowd and get sort of more intensity going. And I think that just proved lethal for the Blue Devils in the end. And listen, we're used to seeing guys like Cormac on the other side, and their intensity and thrive off the hatred. But it was nice to see that be for my guys personally in the Tar Heels.
I'll tell you this much. We talk about the stereotype about the Duke most famous players. They're always going to be a white guy that thinks much too highly of himself, and everybody hates him, or thinks highly enough of himself. Because let's be honest, some of them are great.
But yeah, I'm about to say, but some of them jokers be delivering, unfortunately.
That's what I'm about to say. Some of them are all-time greats in terms of college basketball. So it's not like these guys, Christian Laettner and JJ Redick and whatnot, don't have a right to feel that way. But it's one of those things that, like you said, it's interesting to see UNC have one of those. And although he is a guy who got there via the transfer portal, that's a new era of college sports, baby. Okay? Because I don't care who you are. You a liar if you say, my school ain't going to claim a person who does da-da-da-da-da if they come in last year. Because if Grayson McCall go and win him the ACC championship, you best believe we're not going to be talking about him. He was a Chanticleer for 4 years. He's not ours. It's going to be, that's my boy. That's my guy, Grayson McCall. So, Cormac Ryan, absolutely. He did his thing in this one. And I also want to say this. Credit to the coaching adjustments in the second half by UNC as well. Because I'm going to tell you this, John Shire is looking a little funny in the light.
And is
looking a little funny in the light. When you look at this game and you say to yourself, well, the Tar Heels absolutely came out and dominated, and you had to fight back and do something. I'm going to tell you this much, okay? Every time you felt like, oh, man, Duke's right there. They're right in the game. They've come back. North Carolina punched back. Every single time you were like, oh, I think the score of this thing is much closer than it actually was. But every time you thought that Duke was about to take control or was fully in it, North Carolina said, it's all right. We got it. We'll take it from here.
And, guys like Jeremy Roach definitely took it on the chin, definitely made it because it's his senior night, wanted to take ownership of why he didn't play well. So the team ultimately got the L. But I feel as if, just like you said, simply the last time we had this conversation, they beat them twice same way. You came out, you punched them in the mouth, you catch them off their player. They're always going to come back in the game. That's just the game nature of college basketball. It's a game of runs. You never get too high, never get too low. But it was almost just too deep of a hole to come out of, because I think given 10 more minutes, we might be having a different conversation, a whole different game, especially playing at home. But it just felt like Duke never gave itself a chance from the gate. They got punched in the mouth and they didn't necessarily know how to respond. All that to say, in transitioning to Kyle Filipowski, 23 points, certainly had himself a game, but in true Duke fashion, got himself a little tripped up, didn't know how to necessarily speak to his issues, and it just feels very unfortunate that he is a part of this group of dirty players in spite of his own and adversity he experienced this season. And it's hard to root for a guy that sort of does some of those things that we saw, back on film, him and referee Valentine going through.
It's so unfortunate that a man who overcame the adversity that he overcame this season,
Come on.
looking at a guy who, there was so much to be said for his amazing and epic comeback from him being tripped by a fan, for him to trip another player, and then to claim he didn't know that the trip was there. What's going on in Durham? Mm-hmm. Do y'all practice the trips?
Do you practice the lying? That's the real question. Yeah.
It's clear that they don't practice the lying because the lies are never coherent and good. But the tripping, it seems to be a theme that stretches through the ages, a tale as old as time, if you will.
Because my brother in Christ, you turned your head, you saw him coming, and you cocked your leg out. I ain't never tried to get up off the floor, extending my leg. Have you? I don't know. Have you?
That's actually a very specific stretch that you like people do. You don't get up like that. You don't. Why would you lift up your leg to get it? That just doesn't make sense. So
yeah, it's a tough situation for him. And your mic went out, but I do think credit to some of the North Carolina bench: Jalen Withers, Jalen Washington, Seth Trimble, who came back in this game and really made it sort of shake for the Tar Heels, and Elliot Cadeau coming in with some clutch shots, which we had rarely seen throughout the season. But I think I still want some confidence from those guys. If I were to critique UNC, there was too many times where they would just give up the ball in spite of the fact that the shot was there. And I think sometimes you sort of question yourself. But Seth Trimble, Elliot Cadeau especially, I'm like, if you don't shoot that hoe, Jabari, you can do it. I believe in you.
I mean, here's the thing, right? I think that there is a bit of folks can be too unselfish at times. Folks can be too much of we're going to pass up a good shot to get a great shot. And it's that works out a lot. It's not a guarantee. You never are guaranteed that great shot if you pass up a good one. And, when you talk about Elliot Cadeau and some of his struggles in terms of scoring this season, you've got to attribute that to a little bit of that mentality of, hey, whatever happens, everything's going to be all right. If I got to pass up a shot, somebody is going to get a great shot or somebody's going to get a better look than me. And it's no, dude, you're on this team too. You are going to be counted on at some point in time to get it done too. But I'll tell you this much, whatever they have decided and whatever unselfishness there is or is not there, or whatever the passing decisions are, good enough for them to be ACC regular season champs.
Absolutely agree. So there's a lot to be said about regular season, but that is over and done. Hang the banner, keep it pushing. It is time for some more championship action on the women's side and previewing for the ACC tournament on the men's side. We'll talk about how Notre Dame and Coach Neil Ivy certainly handled business on Sunday. Why am I rolling that one? Only God knows. But here we are. Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. All right. Here we go. Let's talk about some Amazon Fire TV. Fire TV is a destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as a Fire Stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies, TV episodes, and more. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or college basketball tourney, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit Amazon.com/LockedOnFire TV. Now, we all know it's about that time for concert season, and you don't want to miss your opportunity to get in on the action. Baseball is upon us. If you want some tickets to that or a tournament game, Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Kenton Gibbs and I talking through ACC championships, and I did the Game Time app without showing the Game Time block, so I just want to make sure you guys knew about that. But Notre Dame champions, okay?
Yeah.
Won at time as a coach, as an assistant coach, as a player, and now as a head coach. Niele Ivey gets the victory after being regular season champs in years prior, now getting herself a tournament championship. Hannah Hidalgo being down with not having all of your teammates there to ready, still being able to pull off with a victory, certainly something to hang your hat on. Despite the loss, NC State definitely played their hearts out and should be not hang their heads low at all and get in preparation for a really good NCAA tournament.
So I'm going to start here. People don't realize how great of a coach Coach Ivey is. Mm-hmm. I think that we are much too stuck on like, hey, if your efforts don't yield a championship, you're not really good at this. You're not really, it's Kenny Brooks time. It's Wes Moore time. It's Coach Wall's time. I'm going to tell you, Coach Ivey and who she is a big part of what makes the ACC so great, is a big part of why even when Notre Dame has struggled, they've still been a team that go out there and sleep if you want to. Go out there and sleep if you want to, and you will limp out with a loss to the Golden Domers. And so, credit to them, credit to Hannah Hidalgo, credit to that entire team. It is to overcome the loss of an Olivia Miles. What an amazing story to win an ACC tournament championship in this fashion, and to squash the doubts about, Olivia Miles going in the portal and being gone next year. I mean, that's going to be a scary backcourt. ACC Defensive Player of the Year, Freshman of the Year with a triple-double threat, and Olivia Miles, who, outside of her shooting from deep, there are no holes in her game. And so, you're looking at a very, very good situation for Notre Dame there. And on the NC State side of this thing, nothing to be ashamed of. You're predicted to finish 8th in the conference. And yet, you come out being a team with more top 10 wins than any team in the conference, more ranked wins than anybody in the conference, except, I believe, USC. And you're sitting here on the 2 line in what was supposed to be a rebuilding year. Mm-hmm. Of course, Sanaya Rivers, River Baldwin, nothing to be ashamed of. Nothing to be ashamed of. And it was an excellent tournament overall, excellent final as well.
100% agree. And as we look towards NCAA tournament, I feel like there is a good crop of women who will be in attendance, right? If you just run down the stakes. Beyond NC State, beyond Notre Dame, who are the key players, that I mentioned here? Syracuse certainly getting in this bad boy, Virginia Tech, Louisville, FSU, Duke, UNC, Miami. I feel like 9. Who are you taking away?
I think 9 is aggressive. But the thing is,
who are we taking away?
Visibly see, and that's the problem. You have to, if you are to say that all 9 don't belong in, you'd have to say, who are you going to put in over them? And you really can't come up with a ton of teams. And this is the beauty of the ACC, because these women were so good, because there were so many quality teams. Some of these teams that got a random upset on a Tuesday or Wednesday during the season, congratulations. You just punched your ticket with something that, hey, that's a quad 1 win. Even wins that were unranked but upsets, you got yourself a quad 1 win. So, this is a very good women's ACC side. And I would not be surprised if we get 7, 8. I think 9 would be a little aggressive. But I wouldn't be surprised.
Who's on the bubble? Miami
I
and
mean,
UNC?
No, I think UNC is firmly in because they got an upset of NC State and they got some other ranked wins in there. I want to say Miami, although they beat UNC, it's a little tougher for me to say. And the toughest one I would probably say is Duke, because while they also have a win over NC State, they have some really bad losses. And so, I believe they lost to a Davidson team that had to cancel their season toward the end. So that's like a tough loss to overcome.
Right.
But again, Davidson was rolling at that time. They were a very good team that, and you would hope that that team had to end their season bias doesn't creep in because you can't really control the injuries. Right. But all in all, I think Duke is maybe your team that's left on the outside looking in here.
1,000% agree. I think that Duke, UNC, and Miami are definitely on the bubble, especially how UNC performed in the NCAA tournament. Miami, got the win.
Being hard on your girls. UNC.
I'm just being real.
They're in.
I feel bad. I feel bad because I think that Virginia Tech is going to be a shell of themselves without Kitley. Yeah. And there might be a first or second round exit. And that's so unfortunate because of how good I feel like Kenny Brooks is as a coach. And I feel like Georgia Amore deserves better for her potential last showing as a Virginia Tech Hokie. So that'll be tough to watch as well. And then as we're just getting through the season, I'm always rooting for the ACC teams, and who goes the furthest will definitely be interesting right now. Because do I think Notre Dame could do it? Yes, but I've also seen Notre Dame get gobsmacked. So we love parity in this bad boy. That's truly, truly what it's all about around here in this really good conference. All right, let's talk about the men here. But first, when you're hiring for your small business and want to find a quality professionals that are right for the role, you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just any job board. LinkedIn has a vast number of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates, super easy, in fact, that you have 86% of small businesses to get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Kenton, flying this plane, we've got men's tournament on deck. We've got Wednesday matchups locked and loaded, and I just feel like it's going to Tuesday matchups locked and loaded, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech kick us off for the ACC tournament, followed by Louisville, NC State, Miami, and Boston College. So of those, we know NC State's going to be the first W on the board. Everyone else, feeling a little shaky.
You got a lot of faith in NC State.
You got a lot of faith in Louisville.
I don't have a lot of faith in Louisville. I'm just not penciling in a win for NC State. That's all I'm saying. I know when the team has been, you ever seen the Roberto Duran and Sugar Ray Leonard fight, the No Mas fight? You ever seen that? When you're watching somebody get No Mas in real time. When you see it. That team has the No Mas energy. They got that. That second half against Duke, I watched NC State Duke. I say, yeah, that team, that's big No Mas energy after going down the stretch there. So I'm not saying I don't have faith in Kenny Payne at all. Don't put that in the words of Michael Clark Duncan. Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. But I'm also not going to say that I think Keats and crew are fully loaded and excited to go into this one.
If Keats gets upset by Kenny Payne, he's out of here.
Grayson and Grayson Boone, I'm referring to, my co-host on Locked On Wolfpack, we have a saying, no dance, no chance. We started the season saying that, and we thought that that's what the situation was with Keats. Mm-hmm. There are still multiple balls hanging in the air, but that may not be the case. There may be no dancing and still a chance. So, it's a very, very nasty work. But of all of these first 4 games, I just hope all these teams have fun. None of them will matter in the grand scheme of this conference tournament.
Well, it's only 3 games, but Notre Dame
games.
and Georgia Tech, I think that'll be a good one. I think Georgia Tech will pull off the win in that one. I think Georgia Tech is sneakily probably the best, youngest team that we have here in the ACC. I think that Miami and Boston College will just be a game of who wants it more. Boston College certainly has the coaching, and so does Miami with Coach Larinaga, but they just haven't been the Miami that we've seen in recent years. But Boston College certainly can always find a way to pop you in the mouth. But I think of that group, Georgia Tech feels like the strongest to maybe keep advancing.
I think that Georgia Tech has the highest upside of that group in terms of when they're good and rolling. Miami, I would want to say, would be a 1B, but they've had so many injuries this year. I mean, there were so many games. Like, for example, the game against Syracuse, where everybody talks about the game winner. That was a huge game winner. Don't get me wrong. It was a great shot. Norchad Omer wasn't available, and he was leading in points and rebounds at the time, which I believe he still is for Miami. So, this is a Miami team that's been banged up. They've had, it's been a what's the word? I believe it's, what is it, Martin's Law or something like that? Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law. Everything that can go wrong has gone wrong for this team. I don't know where I got Martin from, but anyway, everything that can go wrong has gone wrong for this team, and yet they're still trudging along. And I think that, most people figured that they would be a little worse without Wong and company, but, it's still kind of jarring to see this team kind of end up here on playing on the first day of the ACC tournament.
Absolutely agree. We'll see Florida State and Virginia Tech kick off on Wednesday, and Wake Forest, Syracuse, and Clemson will get in on the action with the winners of Tuesday's matchup. And then on Thursday, we will see North Carolina get in on this bad boy against Duke, Pitt, and Virginia. So a lot of games to be played, a lot of good action in the Washington, D.C. area. So if you are available, highly recommend you come down and see a couple games. But of those teams, if you're giving somebody an upset, tell me you're upset. If you're giving somebody guaranteed they need to win this thing and just ride out in the sunset, who you got?
Okay, so of all the games that we said thus far, I think that Louisville has the best chance at an upset because, again, I know that Kenny Payne is like
Kenton,
not.
be for real.
I'm
Kenton,
telling you, okay, real. All right,
be for real.
I watched that NC State team go an entire game without making a single three. I am telling you right now, I know that we all want to believe that Louisville is impossibly bad. They kind of are. But I am telling you, I've seen teams like that have problems scoring and they're not motivated. Defense is where you get that motivation, like shows like, hey, we want to be here. We want to do this. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, the folks in Raleigh need to be ready for things to not go well. I'm not saying that it will. I'm not saying book it Louisville +5. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that game is likely going to be closer than many people think. And of the teams that I would say, watch them because they could pull this thing off. I say Pitt. Watch them. Watch Pitt. Watch Henson and company because they snuck their way in. They creeped their way on in to a 3 seed, I believe, or 4 seed, which means they got 2 byes. All they got to win. Pitt's thing is consistency. They struggle to string together 3, 4, 5 good games in a row. They only got to string together 2, 3. Hold on. They can do that. Fair. Jeff and company say, we're good for that one. We good for that. So
I think Georgia Tech would be the team that upsets groups. I think that will they have the stamina to get all the way to the end, having starting on the first day? Be tough, not impossible. Tough, not impossible. Who do I think is probably going to mess around and, sneak in there and win more than they should? Virginia, right? Because they're just annoying like that, right? Yeah. They're gonna play sound defense, and you only got to play defense good for 3 games. Like they could do that. It's very possible.
It's the law of who's whenever you expect the least, right? I'm joking. That's a law of Wolf thing, but that's neither here nor there. Virginia is much in that same way. Like when you're like, oh yeah, they should win it. They should dominate everything. They're gonna lose in the first round. But when you say, I don't believe in them, they suspect. Boom, natty. That's how this team works.
And Duke and North Carolina, if all remains true, they will have to face each other in the semifinal game and not championship game. So we could see a round 3 of that, of course. Whoever comes out in those different matchups. So we'll be sure to give you guys that scoop throughout the week, and we don't want you to miss any of it. For Candace Cooper and Kenton Gibbs, we hope you guys have a great start to your week. Make sure you check back in as there's plenty to go over here as always on Locked On ACC. Until next time.